So you're DuPont and you have a big problem. For decades, you have been secretly poisoning the world with toxic forever chemicals that was used to create Teflon and other non-stick and waterproof products. You told everyone these chemicals were perfectly safe, but then the truth came out.
The area around Houston, Texas is back to normal tonight after a leak at a chemical plant this weekend left 4 workers dead, another hospitalized, and released a cloud of gas.
The state of California is taking on some of the country's most powerful chemical companies, suing them for producing toxic forever chemicals used in everything from clothing to cookware to cosmetics.
Research the chemical industry often kept secret, including on PFAS, otherwise known as forever chemicals.
People were getting sick, animals were dying, and suddenly the lawsuits and fines came flooding in. Eventually, governments from all over ordered you to phase out this forever chemical called PFOA for good. People were cheering, the system really does work. DuPont's forever chemical was getting banned. Finally, people could drink water and breathe air without worrying about poisoning themselves in the process. But here's the thing, they didn't ban all forever chemicals. No, all they did was ban one forever chemical, PFOA. So what did you do? You did a little rebranding. You reformulated your beloved PFOA into a new forever chemical that's practically the exact same toxic thing, except with a slight twist in its chemical composition so that it's not illegal anymore. And you called it Gen X. Ah yes, Gen X. As if you couldn't have chosen a more sinister sounding name for a chemical. You then created a brand new company to offload all the production of this new chemical to the Netherlands, also that you can turn around to the public and say, hey, we listened to your criticism, and now our hands are clean. If you've ever wondered why you still see Teflon and non-stick products sold in stores, this is why. This is how the DuPont family is still getting away with poisoning the world. With your best-selling product banned and billions of dollars in lawsuits and fines piling up, you as DuPont went into survival mode. If you were gonna avoid total bankruptcy and the end of your company, you would have to stop producing forever chemicals for good. The only problem was they were just so profitable. Sure, people were getting diseases and all of that, but no one could really expect you to just discontinue your biggest moneymaker now, can they? So in 2015, you created Chemours. Chemours will be taking over your Performance Chemicals unit, Performance Chemicals. A very nice sounding name to investors. This new company will take over your Gen X production, and it would bear all the brunt of the PFOA lawsuits. So with your shiny new product and your shiny new company, Chemours set its sights on Europe. You took an existing DuPont plant in the Netherlands, just right outside the city of Rotterdam, and changed the sign to say Chemours. However, that was not enough. Now you had to try your damnedest to convince Europe that you were nothing like DuPont, that Chemours is here to make the world a better place. So you say really nice sounding stuff on your website, like how you're in Europe to help create a better world through the power of our chemistry, that you're there to produce hydrogen fuel to save the environment, while conveniently forgetting to mention the fact that you were also producing different versions of the forever chemicals the world had just banned. And so the Dutch government welcomed Chemours with open arms. So while the Dutch government made a big deal about banning single-use plastics and how it plans to be carbon neutral by 2050, this plant started producing massive amounts of Gen X. And when anyone asked about these new chemicals, Chemours just took a page out of DuPont's book and promised that Gen X was completely harmless. And like sheep, no one questioned a thing. Within just a few months, Gen X chemicals replaced PFOA in everything from non-stick pans to plastic and food packaging. And within a few years, Chemours has spread all over Europe, and the forever chemical started seeping into every single little crevice of the continents. Just like PFOA, Gen X never breaks down. Once it gets into the air or water, it can spread over entire countries even if they weren't producing the products themselves. And that's exactly what happened in Europe. Today, more than 10,000 forever chemicals, including Gen X, have made their way all over the European continents. They are everywhere.
This is our garden. My father is cultivating some stuff like tomatoes, pumpkins, a lot of potatoes. And this is all polluted, heavily polluted.
How does it make me feel being a neighbor of 3M company? I don't like them being my neighbors, but they are. I use stuff of 3M, which I don't want to, but it's just like that. I have no other option. They're everywhere. My entire family is highly affected by that stupid chemical.
Forever chemicals have been found at 17,000 sites across Europe, including the UK. Almost 1,000 of these sites have dangerously high levels of these chemicals, and scientists are even recommending people who live near these sites to avoid eating homegrown vegetables and eggs laid by chickens in their gardens just in case. And here's where it gets worse. When DuPont was producing forever chemicals in America, DuPont had to get rid of their forever chemical waste somehow, so they just dumped it into the ground and rivers. The same is true for Chemours in Europe. Producing forever chemicals creates a lot of toxic waste, and they had to get rid of this forever chemical waste somehow, and luckily Chemours had the perfect solution. You see, even though Gen X isn't banned in Europe, any Gen X waste like the actual chemical runoff and byproducts of Gen X production is very strictly regulated in most European countries. But not in the US. No, in America, Chemours is free to do practically whatever they please with this Gen X waste. And so, instead of processing this waste in a safe, expensive manner in Europe, the Gen X plant in the Netherlands simply ships off this toxic sludge to a facility in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And just like DuPont, Chemours has not been very careful about how it disposes of its forever chemicals. Instead, that facility in Fayetteville, North Carolina ships off this forever chemical waste one more time to a place in Deer Park, Texas, where they then proceed to inject it into the ground in what's called a deep well injection plant. Deep well injection was also used by DuPont in the 50s to get rid of forever chemical waste, but it's not very effective, and almost always leads to the contamination of the ground and drinking water.
The state of North Carolina is now suing two companies over damage the chemical compound Gen X caused to the state's natural resources. The complaint, filed in Cumberland County by Attorney General Josh Stein, said DuPont and Chemours knew the use and disposal of compounds like Gen X pose significant threats to human health and the environment. The suit also asked the court to void certain corporate transactions. Stein claims those transactions are designed to shield billions of dollars in assets from the state and others who the companies knew were damaged by their product.
We're all contaminated.
We made baby bottles with it. We made their formula. Like, that's what we did.
When I take a shower, I am showering in contaminated water, that we are bathing and cooking and cleaning in contaminated water.
Chemours is planning to expand production at its Fayetteville Works chemical plant that straddles Bladen and Cumberland counties. Public meetings about the expansion start tonight as legal battles continue over the decades of chemical pollution in North Carolina from Chemours and its parent DuPont.
So DuPont offloads Gen X to Chemours, Chemours makes it in Europe to avoid American scrutiny, while also discreetly shipping the waste to be dumped back in America, and no one can do anything to stop it.
A new study finds that nearly half of the nation's drinking water contains potentially harmful forever chemicals.
In the early 70s, DuPont wanted to investigate the effects and concentration of the forever chemicals it was producing, and what it discovered was shocking.
At first, 3M and DuPont were checking to see the contamination levels of their workers. And so naturally, they needed a control. They needed to compare those workers' blood levels of C8 with the population so they could see what the difference was. So they started going to archived blood supplies and checking to see what clean blood versus the blood of their workers might look like. There was no clean blood. They tested kids, they tested adults, they went to Asia, they went all over the world, and everywhere they looked practically, they found their chemicals in people's blood.
And this is exactly what will continue to happen with Gen X.
These chemicals don't respect political boundaries. They are found in every one of you.
It doesn't matter if you've only ever drank from the cleanest possible water out of glass bottles. It doesn't matter if you've never lived in the city away from the pollution, or if you've only ever eaten organic food. Forever chemicals, Gen X, and microplastics have made their way into the bodies of almost every single person on Earth, including you. Whether it's through the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat, or even the toilet paper you use. That's right, not one toilet paper brand tested around the world came back free from forever chemicals. And these forever chemicals are wreaking havoc on your hormones and health. Gen X exposure can cause a long list of serious health problems, including damage to your kidneys, liver, immune system, and reproductive organs. It can even cause cancer, but that is not where the list ends. Forever chemicals also disrupt your hormonal balance. It's been shown to cause infertility in males by literally blocking the function of testosterone and lowering your sperm counts. And in women, it's the same story. Forever chemicals have been linked to female infertility and female hormonal imbalances as well. As Dr. Shanna Swan puts it, the average 20-something woman today is less fertile than her grandmother was at 35. In other words, these forever chemicals are literally making men not men and women not women. It's the reason why testosterone levels have dropped by 59% in the last 40 years alone. And hot take, it's probably part of the reason why you see so much gender fluidity today. Video on this coming soon. And the worst thing is that just like PFOA, DuPont and Chemours will bear the evidence of the dangers of Gen X for decades to come, and it won't get banned until a bunch of people start developing diseases. Right now, there are no medical procedures that can completely clear your body of forever chemicals like Gen X. In fact, the only way to lower the amount of forever chemicals in your blood would be to donate blood every 12 weeks or to donate plasma every 6 weeks. And even then, you will only be able to reduce your PFAS levels by 10 to 30% a year. But that doesn't mean we can't at least fight back against these effects though. And this is what inspired the creation of Amplifier, a company based in the Netherlands who is front and center of this forever chemical crisis. And what Amplifier found is that pine pollen is one of the most effective natural remedies you can use to fight back against the effects of these chemicals. This stuff. Pollen has actually been used in medicines for at least 2,000 years, and pine pollen specifically contains all 4 major male sex hormones, including testosterone. And when you consume pine pollen, it's been found in studies to increase testosterone levels almost immediately. It can also help you improve your overall hormonal balance, while also regulating your immune system so your body can fight against disease. And Amplifier's pine pollen is cultivated in the Himalayan mountains as far away from pollution as possible. It's 100% natural, and it's got a 2-year shelf life once you open the packaging. If you want to pick some up, Amplifier is giving the viewers of this channel a special deal that you can only get by clicking the card on the screen, or by scrolling down and clicking the link below. So click the card on the screen or click the link below to get some now. Thanks to Amplifier for sponsoring this video and making this sort of content possible. Stay dangerous, and we'll see you in the next one.